Hello, my name is Tim Lahili. In this video, we're going to be talking about the grid's right-click capabilities. This is the fifth video in our grid series. So let's hop straight into the tool and play around. Okay, I've already got Quincy open and a case loaded. And when I say right-click, what I mean is literally right-clicking anywhere on the grid. And by the grid, I mean from sort of this line, top line down. And that will give you this right-click menu. If, by the way, you right-click up here, you'll get the HTML stuff. So make sure you right-click down one level. And then you can do it anywhere in the grid. As you can see, it's pretty extensive, the options offered to you. They are based on your permissions. So if you don't have the ability to process objects, you probably won't get this heading. If you don't have labeling, you won't get this one, and so on and so forth. There are far too many options here to review them or to run through all of them in this demo. But let me explain at a high level what they do. Processing options are as you would expect. You're now processing the data. So for example, if I wanted to process these records, I could right-click here and do Process Objects. What that is doing now is it is opening up the Process Data widget. And, if I were to expand it to the left, you'd see that everything was specific to this case at this point. And I could just go ahead and select my processing options and click Checked Items, and it would go ahead and process. For this capability, if I had no items checked, it would use the following logic, which is actually the following logic applied throughout the product. First, it checks for checked items. If there are no checked items, then it checks to see if a filter is applied. If a filter is applied, it performs the operation on all the filtered objects. If no filter is applied, it will apply it on everything loaded into the grid. And then finally, in some cases, it'll apply it to the entire case. But anyway, that's the right-click processing options. Parsers, there's a whole set of video on parsers, so I won't explain these, but this is where you get to the parsers. PDF options, there are also extensive videos on PDF options, particularly branding and things of that nature. But again, this is, if I wanted to access any of these options, I would come here and it would operate generally in the order I had just told you. First, checking for checked items. If there are no checked items, then looking for a filter. If no filter, then what's in the grid. But you can see here, anything you might want to do with PDF should be here. If you want to code an object, this is like the coding panel. This will just allow you to access whatever coding options you have in this case. In my case, I only have one label, so there's nothing exciting to do, and it gives you the options of current items, all, or whatnot. Bookmarks. Well, labeling and bookmarks behave similarly. They give you three options. They give you to bookmark the selected, and by selected I mean highlighted. So this would bookmark these 5. You could also do checked, or you can filter. Checked is obviously just the items checked over here. So if I wanted to label the checked items, I could come here and just say, go ahead, checked. It's going to pull up the different labeling options. I want to go ahead and apply that, and I click apply, and it will ask, don't ask again, save, and it should go ahead and label these 3. Although I think I only have one label yet, and in fact, they're already labeled, so not going to be a very exciting result here. Anyway, The same would work for bookmarks. Exact same logic works across the board in bookmarks. And actually for tasking as well. So for all three of these, really, it's pretty much the same. I have some checkmark handlers here. I'm thinking very much of getting rid of these. In fact, I'm pretty sure in the next version they'll be gone. They just add weight to the right-click menu, but they really don't accomplish anything. This was just to toggle checkmark for any option you have selected. You can see this is the last record we selected, and it just went back on. Check selected or uncheck all. But these options are all here, so I expect this to be gone in a future version. Privileged and toggle privileged, toggle ignorable. These are really legacy items related to FTK usage. There are columns here called privileged and ignorable. This will toggle the state of the record, selected record, relative to those columns. Show case column. We've already reviewed this in another video, but it will toggle on and off this case ID column. Properties is sort of an interesting thing. It shows you metadata associated with the record that we think you would find particularly important. Sometimes we've decided wrong, and there's a way to configure what is available here. That's in the configuration administration widget. Filter operators. This is explored in depth in the column filtering video. But if you click on this, it will expose all these different filter operators. And this is related to column level filtering. You can get those out of here if you want. They're a little too confusing for the general view, so I leave them off most of the time. Thumbnail options. This is for stuff specific to finding images and image-based analysis in Quincy. And again, we explore these in the thumbnail video, so let's skip over this. Print. Print is pretty cool. It will allow you to print to either a local printer or a network printer. There is a dedicated video to the printing because it comes with a whole separate application, but this is where you get to it. If you want to do sort of mass printing, if you want to print any individual record, you can of course do that from the viewer. Export. If we want to get items out, we can export the checked or select, or export all to CSV. Let me explain what this is. When I export checked or selected, I'm actually exporting the item. So if I wanted to get this JPEG, and I come here and I do export checked, it will ask me, am I sure I want to export one file? And I say go ahead, yes, and it will download that one file. Really easy way to get a hold of records in the case. If I export all to CSV, though, now I'm actually talking about exporting the metadata. And if you want to get this grid data out, so let's say for one reason or another, I want to provide to one of my friends all of this metadata. I have two ways of doing that. I can either make the grid large enough. In this case, it would be anything over the 1,400 filtered items. And then click on the Export to Excel, which will give me an Excel document that looks exactly like this. Or if they're too large, if the data set is too large, let's say it's 100,000, and I'm not going to be able to pull those into my grid, I can utilize the Export All to CSV. And this will give me a CSV rendering of all this metadata related to not just what's in the grid, but everything that I have filtered against into a CSV that I can then load into Excel. Deleting records, extremely dangerous. You can go ahead and remove checked records or all filtered objects. QView, bunch of different QView options. You can open QView, you can download it. You can only open it after you've downloaded. You can sync with QView. So QView has a cool capability, and there are videos on this directly, where you can export data to QView and then manipulate it in QView and then import it back into the tool, and that's accessible via this. And then finally, obviously, cancel will just close the right-click handler. Now, all of that is a huge mouthful. There's just a ton of stuff there, and I recommend playing around with it. This was just meant to give you a basic familiarity with what's available and set you on the road to being a powerful right-click user, if you will. Anyway, if you have any questions or there's anything you'd like to see more information on, please go ahead and post to the message board, and I hope this was helpful. Thank you very much.